So Graham Potter's Chelsea have had yet another defeat, and they sit 10th in the Premier League, 10 points away from the Champions League spot and 10 points away from the relegation zone. They are well and truly in no man's land right now with Graham Potter. Yes, he has just come into the job, but he is under huge pressure at Chelsea, albeit a Chelsea with new owners. It ain't the old Roman Abramovich era where you will get sacked for blowing your nose. Of course, they will say they want to give their first manager time. Thomas Tuchel wasn't their choice. They'll want to give their manager some time, but their pressure will be building. No one expects Chelsea to go and beat Manchester City every single game. Of course not. But at Stamford Bridge, you expect them to put up a much, much bigger fight. And I saw something more worrying from Graham Potter for him at Chelsea. Before the game, he was quoted as saying something very, very Moyes-esque. Looking forward to the challenge of playing against Manchester City and that. You're no longer at Brighton, Graham Potter. You're no longer at Brighton. You're at a club that demand trophies. You're at a club that have won trophies in recent years. Big trophies. Their last manager won the Champions League. And whilst I'm a huge fan of Graham Potter, and I think he is a manager that needs to be given time and allowed, you know, to make mistakes and get better and improve and, you know, get his imprint on this Chelsea team. When you look at the Brighton team that he left, and they are sitting ahead of Chelsea in the league table, 2 points ahead of Chelsea, in 8th position in the league table, that makes matters a little bit worse for Graham Potter. You also look at the job Erik ten Hag's doing at United. Eddie Howe, we made an immediate impact at Newcastle. You're looking around there at those other clubs and their managers and what they're doing, and Chelsea falling further away from those Champions League spots, albeit very, very early in the day. And I do think Todd Bowley, Chelsea, will be getting an itchy trigger finger. What doesn't help Graham Potter as well is the fact they're spending big money left, right and centre. They've already spent big money on the likes of Cucurella, Koulibaly, etc. And whilst conceding 1 goal against City isn't the end of the world, I think their defending in other games has left a lot to be desired. And when you look at their results, I think they've lost 5 of their last 8 games, winning just 2 of those, drawing the other one before today. And now they've got another defeat in that. So what's that? They've lost 6 out of their last 9 games. That doesn't look good if you're losing 60% of your games for Graham Potter. And I just think at the moment, maybe it was a job that was too much too soon for Graham Potter, but it isn't looking good for him. Great for us Manchester United fans and Spurs fans and Arsenal fans, Newcastle fans. You know, those teams that are in and around the mix for those Champions League spots. It's great news for them because it means they've got 1 less challenge, or it's looking like there'll be 1 less challenge for those Champions League spots. Manchester United, who's sitting 4th, 17 games played, 35 points. Chelsea are 10 points away from us. 10 points away from us. Already 17 games into the season. Now, on the flip side, you go, well, it's 17 games. You got 21 games left, 63 points to play for. You can still turn things around. You've got some big games coming up. But Chelsea's performances seemingly just keep getting worse. And this is the kind of game as well against Manchester City where you're sitting there thinking, if they're going to turn up for any game, it's going to be this one. But they failed to do that. They looked toothless against Forest at the weekend. Their goal came from a huge slice of luck. Bolly's clearance comes back off the bar. Comes to Raheem Sterling, who, you know, couldn't really miss, you know, a victory against Bournemouth in amongst that run. And Dinamo Zagreb, whilst they've lost against Arsenal, City, Newcastle, Aston Villa, they've lost against as well. Brighton, they lost against as well. So things are not looking good for Graham Potter at this moment in time. And I think they'll be looking to sack him. I also think, whilst I think he's a very good coach, and I just think Chelsea was the wrong job for him, you know. I think he's out of his depth there. I think the best move for Graham Potter would have been wait on Brendan Rodgers to get sacked and go for that job. Wait, you know, maybe the Villa job if that was still open to him at that point, although they went with Unai Emery in the end. You know, there's a few clubs there where you think maybe that's the next best leap up for you. A club with huge demands and maybe more of a budget than Brighton and bigger demands than Brighton, but also one where the pressure's not going to be immediately on you. like it is with Chelsea. And that's one of the things I've said before. Chelsea's a club where you don't usually get given that time. You look at the time that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was given at Manchester United, Mourinho was given, Van Gaal at points, even Moyes up until, I know Moyes got sacked in his first season, but United gave it to the very, very bitter end. Chelsea have never seemingly been a club like that. You know, you look at, who's a manager in the, Arteta, for example. If he was managing Chelsea, he gets sacked in his first 2 seasons. You know, some clubs allow managers time and the luxury of time. Other clubs, they have those demands immediately. And Chelsea are one of those clubs, with the big money being spent as well. More money being spent on the way. It looks like they're not going to go for Enzo Fernandez now, but Benoit Badiashile was in the ground today, sitting in the stands with Wesley Fofana. And I suppose you could, you know, when you look at Wesley Fofana's in the stands, Chelsea have had some injury problems, but they've still got a lot of talent in that team. A lot of talent. And they look toothless. Maybe you're carrying a few mercenaries like Aubameyang. But Raheem Sterling, I thought that was a very, very good signing. Yes, they need to improve their midfield, but you've got to be doing better with what you've got. And I just think maybe this job was a step too far too early for Graham Potter. And we've seen what happens, like David Moyes built up a great career at Everton, gets the United job out of his depth. It takes a long time for you to rebuild that up, and it maybe could be a step too far for Graham Potter. Although there's so many managerial merry-go-rounds that I'm sure he'd get a job elsewhere and he'd be a great coach elsewhere. I just don't think he's going to turn it around at Chelsea. Now, I'm not saying they should sack him now. I think if you're going to appoint Graham Potter, you have to give him more than, what, 10, 11 games. But I'm not in charge of Chelsea. And I think he's very, very close to going. As for Manchester City, big win in terms of them today. I was hoping maybe they'd draw the game, drop some points. United could potentially leapfrog them with a victory in the Manchester derby. But City getting the win there does us a favour in terms of it keeps Chelsea out of the mix for now. But it would have been nice to have that opportunity to leapfrog them in the Manchester derby. City winning, I think the gap's now 5 points between them and Arsenal, and then a further 4 points back to us and Newcastle. Obviously Newcastle have played a game more than us, so things are heating up nicely. Big couple of weeks for Manchester United after these cup games. I'll be at the game against Everton in the FA Cup on Friday night, so keep it locked for my reaction to that. Then we've got that quarter-final against Charlton in the League Cup. If we can get a 4th round under our belts in the FA Cup, a semi-final under our belts in the EFL Cup, and who knows what could happen in those 2 games against City and Arsenal. Big, big test though. My biggest test of the season so far, and fingers crossed we can come through them with 3, 4, 6 points maybe. Who knows where that could take us. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Keep it like, comment, share and subscribe. Until next time, I've been AdamMcKola. I'm out of here.